I'm Phyllis. I live in my van. So now you've had your first trip. I'm very proud of you, and you should be very proud of yourself. It was a big accomplishment, even if it didn't go perfectly. And the point was not for it to go perfectly, it was for you to learn. So how did it go? Did you learn something? Did you make it the whole weekend, the whole time that you'd planned for your trip? If so, congratulations. If you didn't, if it went super, super bumpy, you had to go back home, things just didn't go right, I want you to have a second first trip. I want you to do that before you do this bigger stuff that I'm going to talk about now. And please don't be discouraged. There's a reason why you're doing this, and it's to learn. Think about if you hadn't done this. If you just said, okay, I'm going to go on the road. I just found my perfect rig. I'm going to spend all my money. And then you went out there and you just fell on your face. It's so much better to do it this way, just to try it out. And failing isn't really failing, it's learning. You're learning what went wrong. Whether it went completely wrong or just a little bit wrong, everything that didn't go quite right for you on this trip is what you're going to learn from and what you're going to use on this trip to make improvements, to make it better for you. While you're thinking about your first trip and all the things that went wrong, I want you to also think about what went right, what worked out well for you. What did you like about it? Did you like being outside? Did you like getting away from your house? Think about that too, because that's going to be what you like about van life in general. So think about that too. If there's nothing you liked about that, you might want to consider that, because one of the reasons you're doing these trips right now is not just to get the kinks out and figure out how to do it. It's just to really decide if this is the right life for you. And at the end of this whole process, if any of you decide this just isn't the life for you, I don't want you to beat yourself up. This is not for everyone. It's just not. So that's one of the things you're going to be learning during these trips. So I want you to be really thinking about that too, not just the practical considerations, but are you enjoying yourself? Is this what you really want to do? Is this a life you really want to have? Something to think about. So now let's talk about your next trip. This is going to be a bigger trip. You're going to be staying longer, going farther from home, stretching yourself a little bit more. I want you to take at least a 2-week trip. If you can only get off work or something for 1 week, by all means do that. But I think 2 weeks, you're really going to get your feet wet and find out more than you would on a shorter trip. You'll maybe run out of water, run out of food. Your cell phone charger stops working, something like that. But optimally 2 weeks on this trip. Also, you probably stayed close to home on the last trip. This time I want you to go a lot farther. I'm not going to tell you how many miles to go, but I want you to go farther, maybe a couple of hours from home. And I want you to really stretch yourself this time. Even if you're planning on being a nomad who's always in campgrounds, I really want you to think about your finances, because that can get really expensive. So even if you're planning on being a nomad and who lives in a campground, I want you to try at least one night in dispersed camping. I'm sure y'all know what dispersed camping is. It's not like set up campsites. It's public land that allows you to basically just park. There's no amenities typically. You have to pack in, pack out. So that's the brief description of dispersed camping. But I want, especially those of y'all who plan on doing mostly dispersed camping as a nomad, this is it. This is your time. I want you to find some dispersed camping. I know you're probably going to be a little bit nervous, and we'll talk about that in another video. And I think I have a video about fear and dispersed camping and that kind of stuff. But if you ever want to do it, you have to do it now. You have to just jump in and do it. Dispersed camping. It's not bad. It's not scary. You can do it. So that's my assignment. For those of y'all who plan on being dispersed campers, mostly, definitely the whole time, most of the time. And for those of you, even those of you who plan on doing campgrounds most of the time, I want you to do one night, at least one night in dispersed camping. I also want you to do at least one night in a truck stop or a Walmart parking lot. And I'm going to have a video about that coming up real soon. I want you to watch those if you've never done it before you try it, because there's some things you really need to know, especially about the Walmart parking lots and Cracker Barrel. So, but I want one night to be in a truck stop or a Walmart parking lot. And this is just going to help you get an idea of what it's really like when you're living on the road. And that's what I'm really trying to do, is get y'all ready. So I know it might be a little scary for y'all, but trust me, I'm just trying to get you ready. I really, really am. This time, I also want you to cook. Maybe you cooked on your little weekend trip. Maybe you didn't. But this time, I want you to have to cook. Even if you're in a car, you can do it, y'all. You can really do it. You can get a camp stove at any Walmart, Target, or online. I used a Coleman 2-burner, and the first one I had lasted, I think, 20 years until it finally had a catastrophic failure involving a fire. But I recommend those, or Walmart. You could, I think I've seen them for like $20, little cheapy ones at Walmart. There's also, well, I'm not going to go into all the ways to cook, but I want y'all to figure out how to cook in your vehicle or outside your vehicle, because that's really important, especially if you're on a budget, and I imagine most of y'all are, as I am. I can't afford to go out to eat every night. I wouldn't want to anyway, but I couldn't afford it. So I assume y'all can either. If you can, God bless you. Go eat up. Take me out to dinner, baby. I'll go. But for the rest of us, you're going to have to learn how to really take care of yourself. And that means cooking in your vehicle. So that's one of your assignments for this trip, is I want you to cook something. I don't care if it's a packaged macaroni and cheese mix. I want you to break out some kind of fire, and I want you to cook. I recommend, if you're in a vehicle that doesn't have ventilation, that you do it outside. You can kill yourself with propane. There's lots of videos on YouTube about that. But please be careful. Don't kill yourselves. Cook on this trip. That's it. If your cooking plan is to cook over a fire, that's great. You can do that. But you can't always rely on being able to have an open fire outside. So by all means do that, but I want you to, at least 2 or 3 nights during this trip, to use some other kind of cooking method besides a campfire. This is probably going to be a big one for some of y'all. I want you to talk to one stranger, one complete stranger. I want you to go up and talk to them. And there's a reason why I say this. It can be really lonely on the road. You live in your neighborhood. Maybe you do or don't know your neighbors, but you probably know them on sight and you can wave to them. But when you're on the road, you don't know anyone around you. And unless you're planning on having this friend group, you go out and you're automatic nomads in this group, you're going to be alone a lot of the time. And you're going to get tired of it. I guarantee you, you're going to get tired of being alone. And you may have, a dozen friends in your phone book, but maybe one of them is in Florida and one of them is Minnesota. So you need to be able to reach out to people and make some kind of connection. So I can give you some pointers about what to do. And I'm not expecting like a whole conversation, but I want you to walk up to someone and just have a really short interaction just to get used to doing it. Because believe me, everyone else out there is just hoping that someone else will talk to them. Most of the people I meet are really introverted. I mean, the nomads. And whenever I've walked up to someone, I think I've only had one negative interaction, and it wasn't super negative. I went up to a lady who was sitting in her van in the driver's seat, and her window was open. And I said, "Hi, how you doing? I just want to say hi." And she just looked at me, just kind of dead eye. And that was it. So I walked away. So that was in 2 years of going up to, believe me, probably 1,000 complete strangers. That's the worst thing that's ever happened by trying to talk to somebody. And most of the time, they're so happy to be talked to. And sometimes you'll get a core dump. You know what I mean? Like you say, "Hey, how you doing?" And they're so lonely. They've spent like 2 months by themselves, and every thought that's in their head just comes out. And that's not always fun, but what that means is everyone else is hoping you'll talk to them, and you're hoping someone will talk to you. So why not be that person who talked to someone else? So that's one of your assignments on this trip, is to talk to a complete stranger more than just hello. Here's some pointers I have about talking to strangers. I tend to look for people, and maybe you're used to reading body language, maybe you're not, but you can usually tell, or I can usually tell, if there's someone outside their rig and they're would like to have some contact with another person. They'll be sitting outside their rig in a camp chair facing out. Now, if someone's facing like a line of trees and their chair's pointing that way, don't bother. I mean, you can if you want to, but it'd be a first big challenge. But if someone is sitting facing out, like towards other people or the road or whatever, they're open. That means they're open. They're not closed off. So that might be a good person to start with. I look for also other people in vans, because I feel like I have something in common with them, similar lifestyle. Also, other women of a certain age, not close to my age. And so that kind of commonality can help you get started. Here, I've got one thing to do, which is, it's so easy and no risk. If you're like taking a walk and you're around other rigs and the person who owns the rig is outside, say, "Oh, I really like your rig." Now personalize it, like, "Oh, what a cool schoolie," or "I love the pop-up tent on your SUV," something like that. People like hearing that. It's a compliment. And sometimes they'll say, "Oh, thank you," and they'll start talking about their rig. And then you're in. You answer them and you have a conversation. The worst thing that can happen in that situation is they say, "Oh, thank you," and they go back to their book or whatever. So that's a really easy thing to do. Sorry, this is Kata just flew in my van. That's a very easy way to talk to a complete stranger. If there's someone with a campfire going on that you can see, walk over there. Now, this is probably upper level stuff for introverts, but walk over there and say, "Hi, I was looking for a fire. Would you mind if I sat down?" And you can up your game on this one by bringing a piece of firewood with you. I've never been turned away from a campfire when I've had a piece of wood under my arm. It's really a great way to get started. I'm sure y'all can think of other ways to approach strangers, but I want you to find some way more than just hello. Oh, Godzilla's singing in the background, if you can hear him. Godzilla's my Mormon cricket. I'm sure y'all can think of more ways to talk to people. You're grown-ass folks. You can figure it out. Come on, y'all. I know you can do it. I know you can. And here's your last assignment. for this trip. I want you to take walks. I want you to take pictures. I want you to go home and brag to your friends about how you went out there into the wild by yourself and you weren't scared. No, you weren't scared. That's your assignment. And I want you to look back and learn about your trip, what you liked, what you didn't like, what worked and didn't work. And I want you to really be proud of yourselves. And don't look as any of the problems as failures. Those are learning opportunities, because believe me, you want to learn now, not the way I did. Sold my house, just threw stuff in the back of my pickup and checked into a hotel. Do what I say, not what I do. And you're going to be great. You're going to be great. I know it. And don't let, my final thought, don't let your family discourage you from doing this. I have talked to so many ladies of my age and older who have had their children try to talk them out of doing this. And don't let them. This is your life. This is your life. This is your time to live for you and not for everyone else. And what has particularly bothered me is talking to the women who say that their daughters are trying to talk them out of this because these ladies have been taking care of their grandchildren. And I actually knew a woman she stayed in her house just so she could babysit her grandchildren. And that's just wrong. It's wrong of her daughter to pressure her into doing that for her own convenience. And I get that, Mom, but this is that woman's time. This is our time. Y'all, I assume you're close to my age, looking at my statistics. We have lived for other people our whole lives, whether it's women taking care of men and children, or men, working long hours to take care of their families. Now it's our time. This is our time. Don't let anyone be a weight on your ankle. And they may try to use fear to scare you out of doing this. Don't listen to them. Listen to yourself. Listen to yourself. You know what's right for you. If what's right for you ends up being taking care of grandchildren, then that's your decision. But this is your life. And I want you to live it. And if nomad van life is right for you, I really want that for you. I love it so much. But I want you to do it with your eyes open. I love y'all. I hope to see you in Quartzsite. Again, I'm going to plan on having a meetup starting December 30th in time we'll have a New Year's Eve party. And it'll be about 2 weeks. And I really hope to see you there. Love y'all. Bye. Buddy says bye. He's asleep in the front seat.